So I am a big fan of politics, but something I'm even bigger fan of probably is comedy, particularly stand-up comedy. One of my all-time favorite comedians is Norm Macdonald, and I thought this story was interesting. He was disinvited from The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon based on some comments he made. Now, first off, I don't blame Jimmy Fallon for this, even though I'm not a big Jimmy Fallon fan necessarily. I don't blame him for this. It seems like based on, I'll link below the discussion, but it seems like that Norm Macdonald had a discussion with Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Fallon was in between a rock and a hard place. Norm's comments were basically that he thinks the Me Too movement's gone a little too far, and he references his lifelong friends, Roseanne Barr and Louis C.K., and kind of what they've gone through after the incidents they had. And he did make a comment, which is not the smartest comment, and I think that he wasn't articulate, but he was saying that they went through a lot, and the victims didn't go through what Roseanne and Louis went through. I don't think he was trying to belittle the victims. In fact, he's clarified in a statement after that he disagrees with what both Roseanne and Louis did, and he feels bad for their victims. He was just saying they've gone through a lot, and he's also talking about Chris Hardwick, I believe is the guy's name, and about how he kind of got railroaded with some Me Too stuff too. So, and I agree with him, by the way. I think the Me Too movement has done a lot of good, but I also think it's gone too far. And I think that people are now looking to virtue signal more than their next person, that how outraged they are to any perceived sexual slight or discrimination or harassment, to the point where jokes are now being blown up and ruining people's careers and things of that nature, as we saw with the Roseanne, which I'll get to in a minute. But so I do think that this was kind of blown out of proportion. Fallon claims that he was kind of in a tough spot because his producers, the producers of The Tonight Show, were actually crying. Think about that for a minute. Based on those comments, which again, I'll link below, that are basically nothing, saying, yeah, I think Me Too went a little too far. Producers of The Tonight Show were crying. If you're the producer of The Tonight Show and that little comment makes you cry, you may want to find a new career. What do you think someone like Rodney Dangerfield or Bill Hicks would have done if those little comments from Norm made them cry? Their heads would have probably exploded. It's just absolutely ridiculous. You can't. The comedy is, I don't even know what to say anymore. It's not just comedy, by the way, because this wasn't even Norm telling jokes. It's just people that are looking to be so aggrieved. They look to jump on any comment and just get so hyperbolically emotional that it just shuts down any conversation. The correct thing to do would have been like, hey, Norm, this is what that sounded like. Is this what you really meant? And Norm would have clarified, no, of course not. I think the victims, I feel terrible for Louis' victims and for the woman that Roseanne made fun of. Now, Louis' situation's different. That has to do with sexual misconduct and inappropriately towards people, and that's different altogether. Though I do think that we do have to differentiate. No, what he did was bad, don't get me wrong, but that's still not as bad as someone like Harvey Weinstein or like someone who's actually accused of rape. And I find it funny that, The Tonight Show wouldn't bat an eye for years if Bill Clinton wanted to come on, or even other people that were accused of rape. It's all in who you know, right? Yet the allegations are enough as long as to silence someone, as long as they have the wrong politics or the wrong group identity or something of that nature. But if it's someone that's on your side or who's, hip to whatever scene, the social justice scene, then they seem to be allowed to get away with more, like Bill Clinton was for years and things of that nature. So, I don't know. It just seems hypocritical to me. Now, what Roseanne did, though, is a totally different ballgame. And I've talked about this before, but Roseanne was trying to make a joke. And yeah, it came off as very racially insensitive because she basically called a woman who's black a monkey. Now, Roseanne, for what it's worth, says she didn't think that Valerie Jarrett was black, and it is difficult to tell from the pictures, but if you're making millions of dollars as the star of a network TV show, you might want to check in before you're making comments like that. However, I've been very consistent. I don't think anyone who's making these jokes like this ought to have their career ruined in this manner. I didn't think so with Kathy Griffin. I didn't think so with Roseanne. I think people are just jumping on jokes and trying to ruin comedy by making everything so PC. That's why you see so many comedians now won't even do college campuses, because they're afraid everything's just going to be blown out of proportion. I personally think, again, everyone who's seen this channel knows I'm a Trump supporter. I thought it was hilarious when Stephen Colbert made an off-color comment about Trump's mouth being a holster of sorts for Putin. I thought it was a funny comment. Childish, and I think all the Trump jokes get old, but that one made me chuckle. I didn't even really mind when Samantha Bee use the term feckless and then a bad word afterwards to describe Ivanka Trump. I kind of chuckled. I thought those two words together were kind of funny. But it doesn't matter. If it's not your cup of tea, so what? It's offensive. Change the channel, no big deal. So I just think it's ridiculous. And the Tonight Show is all about comedy, right? You think they, more than anyone, a producer for that show would understand, like, yeah, comedians, even if they're not telling jokes, say provocative things, let's give this person a chance to defend themselves. So now they've gone after Norm. That's personal to me. I think Norm's fantastic. Again, I'm not blaming Jimmy Fallon. He's got to listen to what his producers say too. And it seems like, I don't know, it seems like Norm decided not to go on the show after Fallon kind of told him he was in between a rock and a hard place. But I just think it just goes to show, this is more outrage. Norm doesn't strike me as someone who's particularly political. He's not out there like trying to rub people the wrong way, hammering down a moral message. He's just funny. And a lot of times he's politically incorrect. And I think it's hilarious. So, I felt bad for this whole situation. If you feel bad, watch Norm's show. He's got a show coming out on Netflix. I haven't seen it yet, but if it's anything like his podcast, it'll be hilarious. And check out some of his other stuff. I think you'll find him hilarious. So, yeah, everybody just needs to lighten up. Leave Norm go on the Tonight Show if he wants. It'd probably be the best episode they had in years. So.